Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Finding the Pieces. We are here for episode 6, and today I have a special guest. This is Emma. Emma is joining us today because she grew up basically with extensive medical needs. So, Emma is not disabled mentally or physically necessarily, but she did grow up with some extensive medical needs, and she's going to share with us her story about growing up having to go to the doctor and having open heart surgeries, which is very similar to, I feel like, what a lot of special needs parents go through who end up having children who have extensive medical needs. Lots of doctor's office visits, therapies, and major surgical procedures. So a lot of the times us parents who have kids with Down syndrome can tend to have a higher rate of possibly having open heart surgery. My daughter Madeline did, and it's a scary, exhausting situation to be in. And also, kids with autism may have to have medical procedures done. And when you have a child with autism who is non-speaking, it is really hard to be able to differentiate what their symptoms are if they're sick, how they feel about going to the doctor, what makes them scared because of that lack of communication. So we have Emma here with us today who gets to kind of share some things that she experienced and how it all went down with her family from her point of view as a child who had to go through those things. So she's going to be speaking on, let's start with maybe your open heart surgery. You want to start with how old you were and what that process was?
2 holes in my heart.
So it was a emergency open heart surgery. Okay, so your parents didn't get to have any
My mom
plans. That had to be really hard for your mom. Yeah.
I don't really remember much because I was so young. I remember more as I got older and I had a lot more health complications. How my mom and my dad were there and how they comforted me anytime that I was scared, nervous, especially my grandfather also being there and just telling me that everything was gonna be okay. And
It's probably hard to talk about.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It probably is hard to talk about, especially from the emotional standpoint of your mom, who has to be the one to pretty much hand over her baby without knowing what's going to happen. When it's an emergency situation, you don't get to process that information. So I'm sure it was really scary for her. And you being so tiny and everything. Did the surgery, so obviously you are still here with us and very healthy. So I'm assuming everything went according to plan, or were there any complications when it came to that initial emergency surgery? Or did it go smooth?
The surgery went smooth, swelled so much they weren't able to put my chest back together right away. My
Okay.
mom had to pack my chest. I
Wow.
was home and she was having to pack my chest.
Wow. Yeah, that is probably not an easy task for a parent to do. That's extremely difficult. And you were probably an infant. Most of us parents out there are changing dirty diapers, and getting up in the middle of the night and changing clothes that have been puked on and stuff. And your mom was literally filling a hole in your chest. That's amazing. That probably took so much strength. I will say with Madeline's open heart surgery, she was able to be closed, but see, she had to have 2, and I will say that second go round, she was definitely more swollen and she looked worse initially right after than she did from the first one. So, yeah, when you're that little, it's really scary. Did you have any other medical issues besides your heart and your heart surgery that you had to go through that maybe you remember, since you were so tiny during those that you may not remember? Okay.
So my mom wasn't familiar
Mm,
and she broke down and she genuinely told the doctor, I don't know you. I'm not
yeah.
giving my child to you.
Right.
He sat back on where they have the sink and just told his whole life story so that it would comfort my mom.
Wow. Wow. That's really cool that he took the time to do that. That is one thing that I will say about seeking out doctors and therapists and specialists and stuff for your kids. She definitely did the right thing by not just necessarily handing over to whoever for sure. But I haven't heard of a doctor taking that much initiative in making sure that their patient was comfortable with them. So, way to go for that doctor. That's incredible. As far as, like, the intestinal stuff goes, that's also a thing that probably some parents who have kids with Down syndrome will probably may have or may need to encounter in the future because all of the internal parts of most people, I won't necessarily say all, but most people with Down syndrome, they have a higher risk of everything internally being smaller. I talked about that in the last episode about, like, the anatomy and stuff and features of people with Down syndrome, and it's pretty common that they can have intestinal issues. Madeline's never had to have a surgery for her stomach or intestines in any way specifically to her, but I'm sure that there probably are people out there who've had to go through that. How old were you when you had that one? You said you remember it.
I was 7 or 8. I was
S-
at the
Okay.
tail end of elementary school.
Yeah, so you would have remembered that. Yeah. Was it scary? Were you scared? Did you feel like you understood what you were going into or no?
So I understood it. The only thing that I didn't understand saying, telling us anything, trying to figure out what was going on until I got a referral to like an actual GI doctor. But everybody else was just pushing me under the back burner and like just making it worse.
Really?
Hmm.
Wow. Yeah. And that's another thing too that I think happens with parents who have kids with special needs specifically because the their children a lot of the time lack communication and can't speak. So you have a child who can't express symptoms. You can only go off of what the parent is stating or has seen, not necessarily based off what the actual child or person can feel, has experienced, and like be able to pinpoint where like pain or anything is coming from. And so a lot of the times, what happened with Emma with the weight and getting no information because they don't know what's happening, that's a lot of the time what happens. I definitely had a situation with Madeline one time when I noticed her acting off. Symptoms for like UTIs can really range
Hmm.
depending on your age, depending on your health. And sometimes you can get these odd symptoms for it. And she had never really had one before. So I hadn't seen how her body reacted to this type of infection, right? Which is it's a common infection, but I hadn't seen how her body reacted to it. And she was like really, really fatigued and like weak and seemed to like have trouble standing and walking like she was gonna faint but wasn't fainting. And when I took her to the doctor with my assumption of it probably was a UTI, but you have to make sure, to be able to treat it right. Well, me explaining to the doctors that she was fatigued and walking funny, that was like the only thing they solely focused on that day for whatever reason. And we ended up spending 4 hours prior to actually like attempting to get like a urinalysis and stuff on her because they were like, well, how is her gait normally? How does she walk normally? Can you direct her to walk across the room? And I'm like, no, she doesn't understand that. I can't tell her to walk from here to there and I wasn't trying to make that like a critical thing. She definitely had weakness regardless. And that was all I was trying to express as a symptom. But they like took that and ran with it. I felt like it just wasted a lot of time for whatever reason. But so as you got older, did you ever feel like self-conscious about any of your scars or anything? Did you ever have like kids making fun of you? Because I'm sure there's a lot of special needs parents out there who are concerned when their kids have to have extensive medical needs like trachs, feeding tubes, and maybe have had surgeries where they have scars and they're worried about them being bullied. Did that ever happen to you?
I mainly remember being bullied for the extensive amount of time that I was out of school
Oh, okay. That's
because it
interesting.
was time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just remember kids bullying me, and especially about my short stature as well.
For just being short, something that you like totally can't control.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, me and you both. I'm a pretty average size, and that was the one thing that I got picked on consistently was for being short. So that's a major thing to take into consideration when you have a kid with special needs and they can't tell you about their day. I know that's one thing that I was concerned for with Madeline was sending her off to public school, knowing that when she comes home and I'm like, "Hey, how was your day?" She's just going to be sitting and stimming and kind of repeat the words, you know, school day, like not actually responding to me and is not able to break down the structure of her day. And so if she can't do that, she's definitely not going to be able to tell me pinpoint interactions with other kids or staff. And that's super scary because even us typically mentally, physically normal people who don't have a disability, who can speak clearly, still get bullied. I can't imagine that that wouldn't be a fear for a parent. I mean, thankfully though, the school that Madeline did go to, it definitely had like a wide range special education class, which is helpful because other typical kids are going to see the kids with the disabilities and understand that there's a difference, but they're also the same, that they're all kids and that they're all there to learn. And I think a lot of people are doing better with raising their kids to not bully others. I definitely think that a lot of things have happened through like, the advancements in social media and stuff where some major serious incidents have occurred from people bullying, whether it was in person or like online. And I think more parents now take major precautions and consideration when it comes to that. And stuff like this helps too. Parents and friends and family members who are spreading awareness for special needs and educating others helps reduce that bullying effect. I think that's a lot of the reason why parents advocate so hard to explain. Now, I will say I have seen some parents who basically get upset with people's uneducated notions. You've probably seen that. For example, if a mom comes up to another mom who has a kid with a disability and is like, "Oh, bless your heart, I could never do what you do," they find that offensive. I just like, I don't know. If you were to say that to me, would you be saying it out of malice or are you like just genuinely seeing?
I would genuinely be seeing the struggle that you're going through on a daily
Right, and
basis.
you're, like, trying to, I think, compliment, and I think some of us parents take it the wrong way.
But some could be the other way too.
It could. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because you never really know what people's intentions are,
Yeah.
for sure. I do think we need to give people a little bit more grace, and I think if you wanna advocate for your child, definitely do it in a positive way, by not, like, demeaning the other person just for them simply not understanding. Because I've had people, like, come and ask me you know, why is she not saying hello or why is she not answering me? And I think maybe they are feeling a certain way about like offended that my child didn't respond to them. I've even had family members who have responded like that. Like they feel hurt if Madeline doesn't respond to them in a specific way, in a way that we expect people to respond, but they don't do that out of a specific intent. Madeline's doing her own thing over here, and then you're jumping into what she's doing and then expecting her to respond and her brain to react to you
Yeah.
in a typical way when her brain doesn't do that. So I think them taking offense to a child with special needs reaction is sort of in correlation with how a parent, also needs to just be understanding of the general knowledge. I'm more than happy to explain things to other people. I feel like if they don't know, they are comfortable enough to ask me, well, why does Madeline do this or why does your kid act this way? And that doesn't offend me. Like I feel like it does some people. I'm more than happy to explain because the more you know,
The better you'll be.
right, yeah, the more you can grow, the more you can assess situations better, make better decisions.
The better you
That's
know for the next time you're around a person with that disability.
right, yeah. Like if we just don't ever tell them and we're like, "Why are you being such a mean person? Don't say or ask me those things." I think then you're just blocking them off from learning something that they could carry on the next time they run into a situation like yours. I know we've been together for quite some time and you've gotten to know Madeline really, really well. But I think there was probably questions that you had asked me before you really knew her yourself. And I didn't like
You
shun
didn't
you.
put
Right. I was like, "No, yeah, well she does this because whatever." And do you feel like that was more helpful than me just feeling like we were
I didn't
weird?
put up of it just being like, oh, this is what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause you know, especially autism, like that spectrum, their actions can be very inconsistent. That's probably the best way. They can be very inconsistent. I know at least my daughter is very inconsistent. Maybe your autistic child is super consistent. Mine is not. Like today, she was at the store with us and she'd be chilling 1 second and then slinging something off a table the literal next split second. And you don't know why. There was no real rhyme or reason. Can't look away for like 2 seconds. So there's this inconsistency in those behaviors that we can't predict. We try to predict them. We'll walk into a scenario and Emma's like, okay, get everything off the tables because Madeline's coming in.
Sometimes it's not enough.
It's not. Yeah. The tape, if we leave the tape dispenser out, she will pull it all. She'll just pull all the tape out. And
we love her.
And we don't know why. We don't know why she would want to do that. I don't know what would invoke. Maybe it's the sound. Maybe it's the texture. Maybe it's the way it looks when it comes off of the. Who knows? But it's the most innocent incentive. Like whatever is making her do that, it's not. She's not trying to be mean. She's not trying to get anybody a hard time. She's not intentionally trying to make a mess. Her intention has nothing actually to do with anybody around her. It's solely just based on like something sounds cool, something tastes good, something feels cool, gives her some kind of sensory input or output in some way. She can't tell us what it is, but that's just what causes it, you know? And Emma's been with me through lots of different situations. And so I think we're able to share some of those things together. She can relate, and makes me not feel so alone. I think that's the importance of community and like that village.
You definitely have to have a village.
Yeah.
A kid that may have a disability or just have medical needs.
Yeah. I think me and Emma got close because me being a special needs mom and her growing up with severe medical issues made her more comfortable to like work with me, open up to me, and for us to be able to become such friends because like I didn't judge her based off of her height or medical issues that she's had or doctor's appointments that she had to go to. Like I feel like she's been able to be pretty open with me because she knows like I'm going to get it. Like I'll understand. And I did. Like I absolutely did. And I loved that we've been able to work together. I've even seen other adults like try to make comments at Emma based on her height. And I am not for that. I will not be doing that. Not today. Not where I'm standing. You know. And Emma knows that we have her back. It's wild to me that even adults will bully or make fun of other adults. That's wild to me.
It used to bother me a lot, but now I'm like, okay, you're just saying it to try to bring me down, and it's not going to.
Yeah.
That's my life.
Yeah. And I think that's the one really amazing ability that kids with disabilities has. They have this barrier to they like not care. And I don't mean that like in a negative way. Like we think about not caring about something. Like they literally just they don't
care what somebody says about them.
Right. They don't care if you're judging them on what shirt they're wearing. Like Madeline will literally get dressed in the morning and she thinks she looks beautiful. She comes up to me and she goes, "Great job. Beautiful." And basically she's telling me, I did a great job. I dressed myself and I look beautiful. She doesn't care what I think. She doesn't care what you think about her outfit. She doesn't care if you don't think she looks pretty. It's what makes her happy. I wished I had her filter. Like,
me too.
I really, that is the one thing. And I try to, like, she sets such a high bar with that. Like, I look up to her with that because I was like, man, if I could just be more like Madeline, if I could be more like Madeline and just not care what people think, what people say to me, you could probably walk in. Like Madeline does understand what we say, but I do feel like if we happen to just like walk by and be like, you know, I don't like your shirt, she's going to totally ignore you. And there she is. Hello. Oh, it's dead. Pause. And we're back. That's real life. Okay. So we went over some of those medical situations that you had to go through. And we've talked about a little bit about like bullying and stuff like that. So then the last little bit of this episode, I'm sure there's some things you could probably speak on behalf of your mom and maybe give some advice to our audience, to other special needs parents that are watching, as far as like their children not being able to speak on their own behalf. And I think that scares a lot of us parents when it comes to medical needs, doctor's appointments, and things like that. And so growing up with your mom and all the things that your mom had to do for you, medical wise, doctor's office wise, maybe therapy or whatever it was, explain from your point of view how you felt as a kid growing up in a life and situation like that, and maybe how your mom handled it and handled you.
Get the answers that we needed.
They fought for you.
They did.
Yeah, good.
I felt very, even if my parents had to step away for a minute, my grandparents were right next door. So I always had that sense of security with my family, that they were there and that they loved me. And I loved them.
That's awesome.
That no matter what you think your child's going through, or if they can't talk to you, just know that they love you. And they're not going to be mad with what you're having to do.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a big concern. I don't think it's openly talked about enough how in certain medical situations with certain special needs kids, there are parents who are physically having to hold their children down for necessary medical assistance. I definitely have had to do that, and it's not easy. It's extremely hard. It hurts. It hurts you like physically in your body and your soul to have to do that when your child's looking at you and you're holding them down to like get blood drawn or get your analysis or something along those lines. And they can't just be knocked out or, like put to sleep, anesthesia. They don't do that for just minor procedures, and they're awake and they don't, they're not understanding why they're feeling pain or discomfort. And we can only do so much to console them. But at the end of the day, like Emma said, they know we love them. They know we love them. They know that we're doing what's best for them. I have seen Madeline go through like being sick and then having to go to the doctor, and we have to deal with this pain and this discomfort and people we don't know, and it's this rough situation, and then she feels better. Slowly over time, I saw her realizing that even though she still doesn't like going through that process, but she still knows that I'm there to help her, that it's me helping her. So don't get lost in that negative mindset when your kid can't speak to you and tell you that they love you, because they do. You're doing everything in your power to provide the best for them, So with all that went on with your medical needs, it sounds like your mom is a really strong lady.
She is.
Yeah. Sounds like she's a tough lady. I think we can all kind of relate to her from her perspective. Has she ever talked to you about those situations and shared from her point of view what it was like? Do you think it's because she doesn't like to talk about it?
I think so.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
hard.
get
Right.
off.
Yeah. And I'm going to be very straightforward too. My husband is actually the same way. This whole thing was really hard for me, and this is actually a coping mechanism for me. Making a podcast was not to be cool. I don't think I look cool. I am literally doing this out of a way to kind of get out in the world what I've experienced and hopefully relate to others in the same situation, or maybe they're about to go through a similar situation and can see some future insight, But I will say my husband didn't want to join me, and he went through all of the things that we went through. He is mentioned in my book, but he said, I won't be able to be a guest on your podcast. And I said, I understand. And it's because there's a lot of us who just can't talk about it. We can't go back and recollect those memories because it is so extremely hard. And that's totally understandable. But we commend your mom for fighting for you, and we commend you for fighting. And now you're sitting here fighting for others on their behalf who cannot speak. And that's truly amazing. You're a very smart, intelligent young lady. And I'm very proud to have you as a friend. And I'm so glad that you joined me today on our episode. And so maybe Emma will be back on at another time. Maybe we can do larger group meetings where we have like some other moms and we all like can kind of talk together. That'll be cool. So if you would like to join us on Finding the Pieces podcast, you can email or message me at Finding the Pieces. We're also on Facebook and TikTok. Please check out my book, Sweet Girl, Memoirs of a Special Needs Mom. That's available on Amazon. It's a great read. It explains the story of how Madeline got diagnosed with Down syndrome and severe nonverbal autism. If you have either one of those, it gives you a little future insight to those two diagnoses, what they are, and how we coped and managed. I hope you all have a wonderful and blessed day, and we will see you next time.